Hi, everybody. It is Friday, December 20th. I've been a little lax the past few days about doing any postings since my frustration of video. 'Cause things are just, this time of year just gets so crazy. Maureen's birthday is the 10th, our anniversary is the 16th, Christmas, all the obligations that come in. With all of that stuff, it gets pretty intense. And then Romeo had his surgery, which you would never know he had this. He has, they gave us a whole list of things to watch out for and to be really careful with. And none of it's how he's just like perfect. And he's the happiest little camper. And so he's in the den right now with his uncles, and they're just laying there watching TV. Which maybe at some point I'll get to do too. I'm not sure if it'll ever be in my cards unless I get reincarnated as one of my dogs. But, and I just wanted to say also, I'll be talking about this before we're done with the year, but I just want to thank everybody so much for their kindness and consideration and their comments on all the videos and stuff. I still love doing this so much. And it's still an adventure every day, finding new music and stuff that I've worked on. And to be able to share it with you and give shout outs and accolades to all the amazingly gifted people I've been really fortunate enough to work with over all these years. I'm really excited to be heading off to the UK with Lyle. To play, I think we're going to be in Glasgow and Dublin and Belfast, and then a couple of shows in London. Then we come home. But the day before I leave with Lyle, Scott of Scott's Bass Lessons, we're going to get together here pre-NAMM show and do an interview hang. I'm looking forward to that. I really think Scott does an amazing job on his channel, so it'll be fun to sit down with him. Sad part for me is that NAMM is going on while I'm in the UK, so I can't go to it this year. And for me, it's not about gear. I could care less about gear. It's the social aspect of NAMM that I really enjoy, seeing people that otherwise are either a phone call or an email, a Zoom or whatever, but to actually be able to go hang with Sheldon Dingwall and all the different people who I've got associations with and are friends. So that kind of sucks. But then I get back from Lyle's thing, and then I get home. I forget what day it is. But the next day I'm in the studio finishing up a project with a guy from England, funny enough. And the day after that, I'm in the studio finishing up a project with a guy from Finland. And then we go right into 3 days of rehearsals, and then the Grammy premiere show, the great show that we do during the day, preceding the Grammy show, which takes place in the evening. And we finished that on the 2nd, and on the 3rd, I head to Galveston and start Lyle's acoustic tour. We'll be out until the middle of March. So the year's going to start out really nuts, but right now it's a different kind of intensity. But I just want to wish everybody the happiest of holidays, no matter if you celebrate Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa. Don't celebrate anything in particular. Just enjoy this time of year and the relationships and friendships and all that. And also just a really happy, safe, and sane New Year's. It's funny, right near my house is where the Rose Parade is, and the bleachers are all coming to fruition out there. When it's like the day before, I'll go out and do a walkthrough and film it for all of you that can't get out here, just to see how crazy this whole thing is. But so I'm going to do a little music today. I've talked about this album and this artist a few times in the past, and I just did an interview the other day, and this is one of the albums that the guy who interviewed me cited as one of his favorite albums that I've worked on. And that is No Other with Gene Clark. The title of the album is No Other. So I'm going to read, I've talked about Gene in the past in this album, but I'll just read some bio here so you don't have to completely go back and start doing your forensics on all my craziness in here. So let me read this to you. I'm not going to read it all because it's very extensive, but here we go. So Harold Eugene Clark born November 17th, 1944, passed away May 24th, 1991, was an American singer-songwriter and founding member of the folk rock band The Byrds. He was the Byrds' principal songwriter between 1964 and 1966, writing most of the band's best-known originals from that period, including I Feel a Whole Lot Better, She Don't Care About Time, 8 Miles High, and Set Me Free This Time. Although he did not achieve commercial success as a solo artist, Clark was in the vanguard of popular music during much of his career, prefiguring developments in such desperate subgenres as psychedelic rock, baroque pop, newgrass, country rock, and alternative country. He was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1991 as a member of the Byrds. He was born in Tipton, Missouri, the third of 13 children to a family of Irish, German, and Native American heritage. His family moved to Kansas City, Missouri, where as a boy he began learning to play the guitar and harmonica from his father. He was soon playing Hank Williams tunes as well as songs by early rockers such as Elvis Presley and the Everly Brothers. He began writing songs at the age of 11. By the time he was 15, he had developed a rich tenor voice, and he formed a local rock and roll combo, Joe Mayers and the Sharks. Like many of his generation, Clark developed an interest in folk music because of the popularity of the Kingston Trio. When he graduated from Bonner Springs High School in Bonner Springs, Kansas in 1962, he formed a folk group, the Rum Runners. Then it goes into talking about how they formed the Byrds and all of that. Then it talks about his solo career and when he was... you can read. He was very involved with Chris Hillman and all the guys. The Byrds was a major deal, though. So it says Clark left A&M Studios, the record label, in late 1972 to join a reunion of the original 5 Byrds. They cut the album Byrds, which was released in March of '73 on Asylum Records. While the album charted relatively well, its placement did not live up to the label's initial expectations in the wake of the recent success of Crosby, Hillman, and Clark's composition Full Circle and Changing Heart, and the Neil Young covers on which he sang the lead vocal, See the Sky About You and Cowgirl in the Sand, were widely regarded as standout tracks on a critically divisive album. Disheartened by the bad reviews and unhappy with Crosby's performance as the record's producer, the group members chose to dissolve the band. Clark briefly joined Roger McGuinn's solo group, which he premiered Silver Raven, arguably his most celebrated post-Byrds song. Then it goes on to talk about this album that I did with him, no other. On the basis of the quality of Clark's compositions to the Byrds, David Geffen signed him to Asylum Records in early 1974. The album was the home of the most prominent exponents of the singer-songwriter movement of the era and carried the kind of hip cachet that Clark hadn't experienced since his days with the Byrds. While composing the album, he spent long periods with a notebook and an acoustic guitar at the picture window of his home, deriving inspiration from staring at the Pacific Ocean. Produced by Thomas Jefferson Kay, with a vast array of session musicians, including members of the Section and the Allman Brothers Band, and backing singers, the ensuing No Other fused elements of country rock, folk, gospel, soul, and choral music with poetic, mystical lyrics. Although the album was praised by critics, its unconventional arrangements, which anticipated the later innovations of Lindsey Buckingham, Stevie Nicks, and Christine McVie, limited public appeal. Furthermore, its high production costs, exceeding $100,000, prompted Geffen to publicly berate Clark and Kay. The album was minimally promoted and stalled in the Billboard album charts at number 144. Members of the bands Beach House, the Walkmen, Grizzly Bear, and Fleet Foxes have performed the album in its entirety in a series of concerts. Clark's return to Los Angeles to record the album resulted in his reversion to a hedonistic lifestyle and accelerated the disintegration of his marriage. Disillusioned by professional and marital failure, he mounted his first solo tour by road playing Coffee's playing colleges and clubs with Roger White on lead guitar, Duke Bardwell on electric bass, background vocals, acoustic guitar. The drumless trio was billed as Gene Clark and the Silverados. In 2019, a remastered remix version of No Other was released. And it's got more paragraphs about McGuinn, Clark, Hillman Band, all kinds of stuff here. And then it's got Clark moved to Hawaii with Jesse Ed Davis to try to overcome his drug dependency, remaining there until the end of 1981. Upon his return to Los Angeles, he assembled a new band, the Firebirds, and in 1982 proceeded to record what would eventually become the album Firebird. While waiting for the album to be released, Clark joined up with Chris Hillman and others in an abortive venture called Flight, which failed to secure a recording contract and was quickly dissolved. The eventual release of Firebirds in 1984 coincided with the emergence of jangle rocks like REM and Tom Petty. I hadn't heard jangle rockers before, who had sparked new interest in the Byrds. Clark also began developing new fans among LA's roots-conscious Paisley underground scene. Later in the decade, he embraced his new status as by appearing as a guest with the Long Riders in a session arranged by Saul Davis, and he cut an acclaimed duo with Carla Olson of the Sextones titled So Rebellious a Lover. And the album included contributions from Chris Hillman, Steve McCarthy, Randy Fuller, and it was produced and arranged by session drummer Michael Huey. But then it goes in towards the end now. In 1985, Clark approached McGuinn, Crosby, and Hillman regarding a reformation of the Byrds in time for the 20th anniversary for the release of Mr. Tambourine Man. The three of them showed no interest. Clark decided to assemble a superstar collection of musicians, including ex-Burrito Brothers and Firefall member Rick Roberts, and ex-Beach Boys singer and guitarist Blondie Chaplin, ex-band members Rick Danko and Richard Manuel, ex-Byrds Michael Clark and John York. Clark initially called the band 20th Century, the 20th anniversary tribute to the Byrds, and began performing on a lucrative nostalgia circuit in 1985. A number of concert promoters began to shorten the band's name to The Byrds in advertisements and promotional material. As the band continued to tour throughout 1985, their agent decided to shorten the name to The Byrds, permanently, to the displeasure of McGuinn, Crosby, and Hillman. Clark eventually discontinued performing with his own Byrds band, but drummer Clark continued with Skip Batten performing as the Byrds group, prompting Hillman, McGuinn, and Crosby to go on the road as the Byrds in an attempt to establish a claim to the rights of the name. Their effort failed this time. Clark was not included in the reunion, primarily because of involvement with the act that didn't include them. Crosby finally secured rights to the name in 2002. Despite the critical success of So Rebellious a Lover, which led to several TV appearances, including Nashville Now, Clark was increasingly afflicted with serious health problems, including ulcers and alcoholic dependence. In 1988, he went under surgery to remove a malignant ulcer. A period of abstinence and recovery called until Tom Petty covered I Feel a Whole Lot Better on Full Moon Fever, yielding a windfall of royalties from the album. Flush with money, he began to neglect his professional obligations, although the circumstances remain nebulous, with Carla Olson citing alleged financial improprieties. The binge also precipitated, God, I can't see this one from here, his final breakup with Terry Messina, who had a 2-decade on and off again relationship with Clark. During this period, the Byrds set aside their differences long enough to appear together at the induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in January of 1991, at which the original lineup performed several songs, including Clark's I Feel a Whole Lot Better. Clark's health continued to decline as his substance abuse accelerated, and he was diagnosed with throat cancer in 1991. He died on May 24, 1991, at the age of 46 from heart disease as a result of a bleeding ulcer. Drug and alcohol addiction were determined to have contributed to his death. He was buried at the St. Andrew's Catholic Cemetery in Tipton, Missouri, beneath an epitaph that reads, No Other. just talks about all the different things that people that have covered, from Alison Krauss and Robert Plant to Chris and Rich Robinson. Tons of people have done his stuff. He never had the accolades that he really deserved. A documentary about Clark's life and career entitled The Bird Who Flew Alone was released in 2013, featuring contributions from family, friends, and 3 surviving original members of the Byrds, latter-day Byrd John York and late-era collaborators Carla Olson and Pat Robinson. The documentary revealed Clark was suffering from throat cancer at the time of his death. Yeah, I remember going to one of the early premieres of the movie. It's an incredible documentary if you ever get a chance to see The Bird Who Flew Alone. So that's kind of the Gene Clark synopsis here. That's like a Cliff Notes version of what's available here. But this album was a trip. It was a hard album to make because so much of the creativity was taking place in the studio. There wasn't that kind of pre-production where you get in and bam, you're like nailing it. There was a lot of experimenting and different things that happen. The first song I'm going to play for you is called From a Silver Phial, Phial. And on this one, we have, let's see, engineered by Tony Riel. Gene Clark is involved, is obviously in this. Chris Hillman is involved, Jerry McGee on guitar, Jesse Ed Davis is on it, Mike Utley on keyboards, myself on bass, Russ Kunkel on drums. Composed and arranged by Gene Clark, and arranged also by Thomas Jefferson Kay. It's kind of, I think, Mallory Earl did the mixing, engineering on this. So let me go ahead and just play this one for you, and we'll see. Let's just give you an idea, but No Other is really one of those cult albums. And for me, it sits there kind of like Children of the Sun for me with Billy Thorpe when we did that. It wasn't a huge hit, but God, people still talk about it to this day. The ones that are into it still listen to it. Or, Spectrum, Billy Cobham. We cut that in 1973, yet it's as fresh today as it was back then. So here we go. So from a Silver Phial or whatever.
Refuse from a silver phial. Put her faith into the moon and stars. Said she had a mind that slept inside tomorrow, and time could only heal its scars. She was fire on the borderline. Lying in the fall of rose. Said she saw the sword of sorrow sunken in the sand of searching souls. Sleeping in the master's room, seeing through his eyes for gain. Keeping by your side, not to be a victim, falling in the dark and rain. She was taken from a cruel storm, the refuge from a silver vial. Took her magic master's words and sung and made his lower self worthwhile. Sleeping in the master's room.
just looked it up real quickly too. The phial is it's generally a small glass bottle receptacle for medicine. So we'll do one other here. This is called the True One. Let me see if there's any additional credits to be gleaned. Ben Keith is on this. Butch Trucks is playing drums on this one. Jerry McGee on guitar, Joe Lala on percussion, myself on bass, Mike Utley on keyboards, written and arranged by Gene Clark and Thomas Jefferson Kay. Again, so yeah, we cut this, I believe, at Village Recorders in probably, it must have been Studio 2, I think. But it was an adventure. It was really a hard record to make, but one of those ones when it was all done and we sat and listened, we went, oh, this is really cool. This is really good. So proud to have been a part of this one. Yeah, so here we go, the True One.
Believe.
Whoops, come on, give us the downbeat.
Say there's a price you pay for going out too far. You can buy a one-way ticket out there all alone, and you can sit and wonder why it's so hard to get back home. Nothing is important, not easy to believe. The longer you're in one place, the harder it is to leave. You can have 1,000 cards to pull out of your sleeve, but in the end, the loser is the one who does deceive. There's always a reality in what you are doing. Sometimes it's so hard to see which one is the true one. I used to treat my friends like I was more than a millionaire, spending those big ones like I could afford them all upstairs. But what's been flying high must always touch the ground. Just walk upstairs and ask, you'll be likely directed down into the reality of what you are doing. Sometimes it's so hard to see which one is the true one. There's always a reality in what you are doing. Sometimes it's so hard to see which one is the true one.
Gene Clark. The album is No Other. The whole album's amazing. The title track, No Other, for me, that was an adventure. I've featured it on an earlier video. I think I've had maybe 5 basses that I recorded for that one, all kinds of sub stuff and solo stuff, and they just said, go for it and just have fun. And it was. I don't get those opportunities that often, so when it comes along, it's really fun to do. So I'm going to get running here, lots to do. Again, wishing everybody a very safe holidays. If you're traveling, if you're driving, you're flying and all that, just be patient. Don't go crazy. It's too easy to lose it. I mean, when I was driving all morning, I've been running and doing a lot of stuff and seeing people running lights. They want to get through that light, and boy, that could be fatal. And just, be smart about things, and we'll get through everything together. So take good care. I will probably see you tomorrow, and it's great. I appreciate you all so much. So take care. Bye.